Welcome to this new edition of The Information. In the headline, Burkina Faso has a new Prime Minister. A few weeks after his inauguration, President Roch-Marc Christian Kaboré renewed his trust in Christophe Dabiré to honor this position. And sub-Saharan Africa's economic recovery is expected to be sluggish in 2021. The World Bank forecasts a growth of 2.7% for this year. But first, Senegal is facing a rise in COVID-19 cases. The state of emergency is again enforced, although it only concerns the cities of Dakar and Thiès. A curfew is in place from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. to this evening. Other measures are to come. Christophe Dabiré, reappointed as head of government in Burkina Faso, the economist by training, was chosen by President Roch-Marc Christian Kaboré to work in the government. A look back at his career in this portrait by Nina Sakaramoko.
Christophe Dabiré will lead the very first government of President Roch Kaboré's second term. The outgoing Prime Minister has been charged with forming the next government team. The names of the future ministers should be known in the coming days. Christophe Dabiré, 72 years old, succeeded to Paul Kabatieba to lead the government's action until the last election. An economist and former Minister of Health, Mr. Dabiré was also the Ministry of Secondary and Higher Education from 1997 to 2000. From the government, he moved to the National Assembly where he was elected deputy in 1997 and re-elected in 2002, before serving for 10 years as commissioner at the West African Economic and Monetary Union. According to the Constitution, the Prime Minister has 30 days to make his general policy statement before the Burkinabe hemicycle, which will be worthy of investiture if it is voted by the deputies. However, if the policy statement does not receive an absolute majority of the members of the National Assembly, the President must resign the Prime Minister from office within 8 days.
Tunisian Interior Minister Taoufik Charfedine dismissed from his post. The decision was made public on Tuesday through a press release. If the reason for the dismissal are unknown, Prime Minister Hichem Mechichi must take over the interim, a position that is not foreign to him since Hichem Mechichi occupied it before becoming head of the government cabinet. Sub-Saharan Africa should see a rebound in economic growth in 2021. At least this is what the World Bank says in its forecasts. This growth will be mainly driven by agricultural exporters, a subject from the editorial staff. The World Bank has unveiled its forecast for growth in Sub-Saharan Africa in 2020-21. The international body is indeed expecting a growth of 2.7% for this year.
Recovery is expected to be slightly faster, although below historical averages, in agricultural exporting countries. High world agricultural commodity prices are likely to stimulate activity.
A sluggish rebound certainly, but which would follow the 3.7% drop experienced by the continent in 2020, the continent which has moreover experienced its first recession since 25 years that same year. Agricultural countries such as Benin, Uganda, Ivory Coast and Malawi should be able to rebound economically despite the persistence of COVID-19, a recovery that will be more difficult for exporters of metals or oil, like Nigeria, which torpedoed by the fall in barrel prices in 2020, should post growth on 1.1% in 2021 after a 4.1% drop in its GDP in 2020. As for the International Monetary Fund, which has also published its forecast for the year 2021, after, in its own words, a 3% decline in GDP in 2020, the worst result ever observed for the region. Sub-Saharan Africa should experience a rebound of 3.1% of its growth.
Also in the news, the Guinean activist Oumar Silla, better known as Fonike Menge, still in detention. Jailed since last September, he has been on an hunger strike since December 25 to have his trial scheduled. His state of health worries the NGO Tournons la Page, which has alerted about the situation. Rwanda now, where new restrictions have been put in place to deal with the second wave of COVID-19 contamination. In particular, the night curfew starting at 8 p.m. has been extended. Details with Nina Sakaramoko.
Sad record after the early days in Rwanda, December was the deadliest month since the beginning of the pandemic. The daily positivity rate went from less than 1% at the beginning of November to a record of 7.6% on Monday. According to the authorities, this was due to a slackening of the population during the holidays. The government fears a second wave of coronavirus. To deal with it, the country has adopted new restrictions. Since yesterday, the night curfew has been extended for 2 weeks, and travel between the different districts is prohibited. Only travel for medical reasons and essential services are allowed. Businesses and restaurants will now be required to close at 6 p.m. Finally, bars and discos have not reopened since March. All domestic and international tourists may travel across districts but must process negative COVID-19 results. Today, the country had recorded 9,020 cases with 6,880 recoveries and 109 deaths since the beginning of the epidemic.
This is it for this edition of The Information. Thank you for following it. Information continues on Baris TV.